My sister pointed at me at dinner and said, "You're a failure, everyone knows it." Mom laughed too. I said, "Fine, then don't call me when you need money," and 2 days later. She said it like she was ordering dessert, calm, casual, a little too loud over the clinking of silverware. My sister, Anna, pointed her fork at me from across the table, her voice slicing through the polite dinner chatter. "You're a failure, everyone knows it." The room fell into that specific kind of silence that only happens when a line is crossed, slow, stretching, awkward. All eyes turned to me. My cousin paused with a fork halfway to his mouth. My aunt blinked like she hadn't heard it right. And then, my mom laughed. It wasn't a nervous chuckle either. It was a full, teeth-baring laugh, like Anna had just told the joke of the night. I felt it like a punch in the gut, not the words, not really. It was the laughter. My own mother laughed. That was when I knew. They didn't just think I was a failure. They enjoyed thinking it. I put down my glass and said calm and cool, "Fine. Then don't call me when you need money." That shut everyone up. Even Anna's smug grin twitched. My mother's laughter trailed off into a weird half-cough. I looked around the table, memorizing their faces. They had no idea. No one at that table, no one in my family, knew I was a millionaire. The truth is, my sister's words at that dinner weren't new. They were just louder. More public. For as long as I can remember, I'd been the disappointment. Not because I was reckless, not because I caused trouble, but because I was ordinary, or at least that's how my family saw it. Anna was the golden child. She had this way of making herself the center of every room, smiles, compliments, charm turned on like a spotlight. Teachers loved her, relatives spoiled her, and my parents, well, they treated her like she was the best thing they'd ever done. Me? I was background noise. I remember being 17, standing in the living room with my acceptance letter to college in my hands. I was proud, genuinely proud. I'd worked hard, gotten into a decent school, something no one else in my family had done. When I told them, my dad barely looked up from the game on TV. "That's nice, son," he muttered. 2 weeks later, Anna announced she was going to be a cheerleader for the local college football team, and suddenly there were balloons in the kitchen and a cake with her name on it. That was my role, the one who got polite nods while Anna got standing ovations. And maybe they thought I believed it. Maybe they thought I swallowed the narrative they fed me, that I was the forgettable one, the one who'd never measure up. But what they didn't know was that while Anna was spending weekends shopping with my mom, I was spending mine at the library, reading about things none of them cared about: finance, business, investing. I started small. A few $100s from summer jobs, tucked into stocks instead of sneakers. While Anna was posting selfies from parties, I was running numbers in a notebook, fascinated by how money could grow if you were patient enough. No one noticed. No one asked? And honestly, that was fine. Because while they were busy underestimating me, I was building something they couldn't even imagine. But still, the disrespect cut deep. It wasn't just that they ignored my successes. It was that they assumed failure was my default. If my car broke down, it was because I couldn't take care of it. If I was quiet at dinner, it was because I didn't have anything interesting to say. If I worked late nights, they said it was probably because I was stuck at some dead-end job. They never thought for a second that maybe, just maybe, I was creating something bigger. And that's why, when Anna pointed her fork at me across that dinner table, smirking in front of everyone and declaring me a failure, it didn't sting because it was new. It stung because it was predictable. Because after all these years, after all the things I'd accomplished in silence, nothing had changed. Until I said those words. "Fine. Then don't call me when you need money." I meant them. And 2 days later, they'd find out just how much I meant them. It's funny, looking back. The first real sign that my family didn't just overlook me, but actually looked down on me, came years before that dinner. It was a Thanksgiving, maybe 6-7 years ago. We were all at my parents' house. The kind of night where the dining table is groaning with food, everyone half drunk on wine and the sound of their own voices. My cousin Mark was bragging about his new truck. Anna was going on about some networking event she'd been invited to, really just a cocktail party where she posed for photos and acted like she was destined for greatness. And then, as the conversation slowed, my mom turned to me. "So, John," she said, her voice polite but already dismissive, "how's work?" At the time, I was working at a mid-sized firm. Nothing glamorous, but the kind of job where I was learning everything I could about markets and investments. I told her about a project I was on, how I'd been handling accounts worth more than I'd ever imagined touching in my life. Anna snorted. She actually snorted. "Oh, so you're like a spreadsheet guy? Wow, Mom, he moves numbers around." The table laughed. Even my father shook his head, like she'd cracked the joke of the century. And there I was, sitting with the stuffing still warm on my plate, realizing they weren't just blind to who I was. They enjoyed tearing me down. That night, I swore something quietly to myself: I'll let them laugh. I'll let them underestimate me. And then, one day, they'll realize how wrong they were. And that's exactly what happened. While Anna coasted on charm and connections, I was grinding in silence. I'd leave work and come home to research, late nights filled with financial statements, trend lines, economic reports. I learned how to read markets the way some people read novels. I put every spare dollar into investments. Some failed, but others took off. By 30, I had a portfolio worth more than my parents' house. By 32, I could have retired if I wanted. But I didn't. Because it wasn't just about the money, it was about what it meant. Every dollar was proof that I wasn't the failure they thought I was. And yet, even as my bank accounts grew, the respect never came. Not once did my parents ask about my life. Not once did Anna acknowledge that maybe, just maybe, I was doing something right. Which is why, at that dinner 2 weeks ago, when Anna pointed her fork at me and spat those words, "You're a failure, everyone knows it," I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I just smiled coldly and said, "Fine. Then don't call me when you need money." Because I knew the call was coming. And when it did, it was going to change everything. After that dinner, I didn't go home angry. I went home, calm. Colder than I'd ever felt in my life. There was no shouting match, no storming out. I simply put down my fork, gave them that one sentence: "Don't call me when you need money," and let the silence do the rest. Driving home that night, the city lights blurred against the windshield. And I realized something strange. For the first time in years, I felt free. Free of chasing their approval, free of trying to prove myself to people who had already made up their minds about me. I didn't need them to know who I was. I already knew. When I walked into my apartment, the first thing I did was log into my accounts. Rows of numbers lit up the screen: investments, dividends, returns. The kind of numbers my family could never even imagine. Enough to buy their house twice over. Enough to retire Anna and her husband, if I wanted. And yet, to them, I was still the failure. I laughed to myself. The irony was almost too much. The next morning, I made coffee and sat by the window. The quiet was soothing. No calls from family, no texts from Anna, no passive-aggressive comments. Just silence. But I knew it wouldn't last. Because here's the thing about people like Anna: they live loudly, they spend recklessly, and eventually, they fall hard. And when they do, they always expect someone else to catch them. For 2 days, I carried myself like a man waiting for an echo. I replayed the dinner scene in my head, over and over, but instead of anger, all I felt was anticipation. And on the evening of the second day, it came. My phone lit up with Anna's name. I let it ring. Once, twice, 3 times. Then I picked it up, just to hear the panic in her voice. "John," she gasped, "I need your help. Please. It's serious." I leaned back in my chair, sipping my coffee like I had all the time in the world. Of course it was. The first time her name flashed across my screen, I ignored it. Anna never called me, she texted, usually with some snide remark or, at best, a one-line request like, "Hey, can you drive Mom to her doctor's?" A call meant something else. Something urgent. It rang. Stopped. A minute later, it rang again. By the third call, I just stared at the screen, watching it light up, feeling that slow curl of satisfaction in my chest. I knew exactly what this was. By the fifth, I almost answered. Not to help, but to hear her voice, hear that tone she never used with me, the one without arrogance. By the seventh, I caved. I swiped the screen, lifted the phone to my ear, and said nothing. Just silence. Her voice cracked through, fast, frantic, nothing like the confident sister who'd humiliated me at dinner. John! Finally! Why didn't you answer? I let the silence hang, long enough for her to start to squirm. Then I said flatly, I've been busy. What do you want? Her breath hitched. Listen, I wouldn't be calling if it wasn't serious. It's bad. Really bad. I leaned back in my chair, my coffee still warm in my other hand. Define bad. She hesitated. Anna never hesitated. We're in trouble, she finally said. Mark lost his job last month, and we fell behind. On everything. The mortgage, the car, the credit cards, it's a mess. I almost smiled. There it was. The crack in the golden child's crown. So, I said, slow, measured, you need money. Yes, she whispered. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't desperate. Please, John. I know what I said at dinner, but this is different. I need you. For the first time in my life, she said those words, I need you. And instead of rushing to fill the silence, I let it stretch, savoring the moment. Interesting, I murmured. Because 2 nights ago, you told me I was a failure. That everyone knew it. And Mom laughed. She stammered. John, I didn't mean it. It was a joke, okay? Please, I'm begging you. Begging. From Anna. I'd waited my whole life for this. I let her words hang in the air. Please, I'm begging you. The same sister who once laughed when I showed her my first beat-up car. The same sister who told me, in front of our cousins, that I'd probably end up living in Mom's basement forever. The same sister who pointed at me 2 nights ago and called me a failure. Now begging. I leaned back, staring out my window at the quiet street below. Begging, huh? That's new. John. Her voice cracked, sharp, like she was trying to reel back control. Don't do this. I wouldn't be asking if we weren't drowning. Mark's been applying everywhere, but it's not enough. We're behind on the house. They could take it. We could lose everything. And why is that my problem? I asked, my tone calm, almost casual. She went silent. For once, Anna didn't have a comeback ready. I continued, do you know what it feels like, Anna? To be laughed at by your own family? To be treated like a punchline at every dinner, every holiday, every gathering? Do you have any idea what that feels like? I didn't mean it like that. She stammered. You're my brother. No. I cut her off. Say it. Don't dance around it. Say you were wrong. She swallowed hard. I could hear it in the pause. Fine. I was wrong. Okay? I shouldn't have said those things. You're not a failure. But that wasn't enough. Not after years of disrespect. Not after all the time she made me the family's joke. Not good enough, I said softly. Say the words. Say you need me because you can't fix your own mistakes. Say you were wrong about me. John. Say it. The line went quiet, just her shaky breathing. Then, finally, in a voice I barely recognized as hers, she whispered, I was wrong about you. I need you. I closed my eyes, letting the satisfaction wash over me like a tide. For the first time in my life, Anna's pride was on the floor. And for the first time, I held all the power. Her voice was small, almost childlike. I was wrong about you. I need you. It should have been enough. Years ago, I would have taken that scrap of humility and clung to it like a starving man at a table. But not this time. Not anymore. I said, as if I were considering a business proposal. That's a start. But I don't quite believe you. John, please. Tell me. I interrupted. Why do you think I'd help you? After everything? Silence. I could almost picture her, gripping the phone, face flushed, fighting against the one thing she hated most, being powerless. Because you're my brother, she finally muttered. I laughed softly, the kind of laugh that makes people shift in their seats. Oh, now I'm your brother? 2 days ago, I was a failure. Everyone knew it, remember? Her breath hitched, sharp and guilty. I was angry, I didn't mean it, You meant it. I cut in, my tone cold. You've meant it for years. Every word, every smirk, every little jab in front of Mom and Dad. You loved putting me in my place. Only now that place happens to be above you, doesn't it? Her voice cracked. I don't care about any of that right now, I need help. Please, John, I'm desperate. I let the silence stretch again, watching the city lights flicker outside my window, savoring the moment. Then I asked, almost gently, And how much do you need? She rushed the words out like a drowning person gasping for air. 20,000. It would cover the house for a few months, buy us time. 20,000. I repeated, slow, deliberate. Funny number. Do you know how much I've put into this family over the years? Gas money. Small loans. Quiet handouts you never acknowledged. It's more than that, Anna. Much more. Her breath turned ragged. I'll pay you back. I swear I will. Pay me back? I almost smiled. When have you ever paid me back for anything? That landed hard. There was a pause, then, for the first time in my life, I heard my sister cry. Not the theatrical sobs she used to manipulate Mom and Dad, but real, ugly crying. John, she choked. I'm sorry. Please. I'll do anything. And there it was, the moment I'd waited for all my life. I finally had her where she'd always kept me. Her sobs were muffled through the phone, broken words spilling out between breaths. Please. I'll do anything, John. Just don't let us lose the house. Don't let them take everything. I closed my eyes and leaned back in my chair, letting the weight of it settle in. This was it. The moment the scales finally balanced. Do you remember? I said slowly. How you pointed at me at dinner? You didn't just say I was a failure, Anna. You said everyone knows it. You made sure it stung. And Mom laughed because to both of you, I've always been the joke. She sniffled, her voice hoarse. I didn't mean it. You did. I cut in, calm and steady. You meant it then, and you meant it all the other times before that. But now, suddenly, you need me. Suddenly, I'm useful. Her silence was heavier than her tears. You want $20,000? I said. You want me to save your house, to save your pride, to clean up your mess? No, Anna. Not this time. Her gasp cracked like glass. What? John, you can't. I can't, I said, my voice cold as stone. And I will. Do you know why? Because you were right. I am a failure in this family's eyes. I've always been the disappointment, the background noise. So why would you come running to a failure for help? Because I was wrong, she cried, desperation laced in every word. Please, John, I'll never. No. I cut her off. Save your breath. You don't get to rewrite years of disrespect because now you're in trouble. You don't get to laugh at me one night and beg me the next. Actions have consequences, Anna. And you're about to learn that the hard way. For a long moment, the only sound was her broken breathing on the other end of the line. Then, softly, I said the words I'd been waiting years to deliver. Don't call me again. And I hung up. The phone lit up again almost instantly after I hung up. Once. Twice. 3 times. I didn't answer. Then the text started. You can't do this to me. John, please think of the kids. If you don't help, we'll lose everything. Do you want that on your conscience? Each one came faster than the last, a torrent of desperation flooding my screen. I scrolled through them slowly, methodically, like I was reading lines of a play I'd already memorized. It didn't stop with Anna. By the next morning, my mother called. Her tone was sharp, accusing, not a hint of sympathy in it. John, what is wrong with you? Your sister is in crisis. She told me you refused her. How could you be so cruel? I almost laughed. Cruel. That was the word she chose. Not cruel when Anna mocked me. Not cruel when she called me worthless in front of cousins, friends, family. Not cruel when Mom herself laughed along, adding fuel to the fire. But now that I said no, suddenly I was cruel. I let her rant, her voice trembling with that practiced guilt-trip tone she'd used on me since I was a kid. Then, when she finally demanded an answer, I gave her the same words I'd given Anna. Fine. Then don't call me when you need money. And I hung up again. The voicemails piled up, Anna's sobs, Mom's scolding, even a terse message from Dad. Son, family comes first. Call her back and make this right. But none of them knew the truth. None of them knew that while they were wringing their hands over bills and mortgages, I was sitting in a high-rise apartment paid for in cash. None of them knew that my investments, the ones they once mocked as John playing with numbers, had turned into more wealth than they'd see in a lifetime. They thought I was being stubborn. They had no idea I was simply drawing a line in the sand, one I'd been preparing for years. That night, I sat at my desk, scrolling through the endless stream of pleading messages. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel the sting of being the family's disappointment. I felt something else. Power. It wasn't about the money anymore. It wasn't about the 20,000, or even the years of disrespect. It was about finally realizing that I didn't need their approval. That the little boy who once waited for his mother's praise, for his sister's respect, for his father's recognition, was gone. In his place was a man who built his own life, his own success without them. And as I turned off my phone and let the apartment fall silent, I understood something I'd never dared admit before. I didn't need them. Not anymore. The days that followed were quiet. Too quiet for Anna, I'm sure. She kept trying, texts, voicemails, even emails. Eventually she stopped. Not because she'd forgiven me, but because she'd realized what I had already known for years. I wasn't her safety net anymore. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel like the outsider in my own family. I didn't feel like the disappointment, the failure, the one they all pitted behind polite smiles. I felt free. There's a strange peace that comes when you finally stop chasing the approval of people who will never give it. My family had shown me who they were, over and over. And I had finally decided to believe them. Anna lost more than money that day. She lost the one person she thought she could always lean on, no matter how badly she treated him. And my mother, well, she learned that laughter can carry a cost when it's at your child's expense. As for me, I walked away lighter. Stronger. Colder, maybe, but colder in a way that protected me. If there's anything I'd tell someone listening to this, it's this: you don't owe loyalty to people who've made a habit of tearing you down. You don't have to keep proving yourself to those who've already decided not to see you. Build in silence. Work when no one's watching. Let them laugh. Let them underestimate you. And then, when the time comes, stand tall enough that their laughter dies in their throats. Because the sweetest revenge isn't anger. It's indifference. It's looking someone in the eye, hearing them beg for what you already know they don't deserve, and saying calmly, "No. Not this time." And then walking away, for good.